despair. I will offer up my talents to Master Ford. I will keep myself hardy till freedom is opportune.
Of course, looking at a montage there of some of the celebs who have passed away that have touched our hearts over the year. But we're going to go back to a lighter note here, and here with us to discuss all the things entertainment, of course, our good buddies Mike Sargent of Arise on-screen and pop culture commentator Jeremy Hassell. Mike, let's start with the movies here. Okay. A lot going on here with the movies for this year. I want to talk about the year in review, and of course, 12 Years a Slave was obviously such a prolific movie.
Well, 12 Years a Slave was a prolific movie, and in some ways, I think it coming out helped open the door to what has happened this year, where we've actually had black historical dramas, not just one from one white director. We've had several. You know, we had the first movie ever, feature film of Martin Luther King. That's pretty historical.
I want to talk about two of those. The first one I want to talk about, of course, is Selma.
Right.
And then, of course, Belle.
All right, Selma is the first feature film by about Martin Luther King Jr., Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It's the first one, and it's directed by a woman of color. Let's put it this way. This is also the year of the black female director. And they make up, in the industry, less than 1%. For us to have three major films to come out by Ama Asante, who did Belle, Ava DuVernay, who did Selma, and Gina Prince Bythewood, who did Beyond the Lights in the same year, that's pretty amazing.
That is
awesome.
That is amazing.
So.
And a big year otherwise outside of on the big screen here, of course, Pharrell, of course, his song Happy. Of course, I think that won a Grammy, I believe it has.
Yes, Pharrell came home with 4 Grammys to start off this year.
And of course, that big hat of his.
Come on, man, the Smokey the Bear hat. I could see you with it on, Julian. Come on.
No, that's a little bit too big, even for my big head, Jeremy. I mean, come on.
He had the slouch at the movie theater.
Hey, what happened? But Pharrell has an awesome year, starting off at the Grammys and also performing at the Oscars, Happy, which was nominated for an Oscar as well.
It was, and in fact, I think he was not originally going to do that tune himself. He was going to give that off to another artist, and then they were not interested, and of course, it became a bonanza for him.
Absolutely. CeeLo didn't actually release it, so Pharrell got to get the benefits of it and had a landslide of an amazing 2014.
Shame on him. I want to focus also on Beyonce, of course. I mean, she's always up there, you know, one of the top winners, money-wise, too, of 2014.
$115 million in 2014.
And that's without Beats headphones.
Correct. That's good. Yes, correct.
You know, Beyonce obviously is always a big money maker. In fact, I was at Barclays the other night watching the Nets. I figured that she'd be in the crowd there with Jay-Z, but she wasn't. I want to go back to the big screen, Mike. You know, one person who was my idol, I lived not far from him growing up in St. Albans, Queens, and that was James Brown.
Me too.
But I didn't see the movie yet. Get on up. Tell us about it.
Okay, I'll tell you about the movie, and it's also, one of the shames about this movie is that, again, it's another black historical drama about one of our greatest entertainers ever, but it came out early in the year, so people kind of forgot that Chadwick Boseman did such an amazing job. I mean, he immersed himself in that role. Like, after a while, you're just watching James Brown do his thing. And it's interesting, some people said to me something I never really noticed. James Brown's kind of 50-50 with black folks.
Really?
I always assumed everybody loved James Brown.
The Godfather of Soul?
It's not true. There's some people who just don't care about James Brown. So as a result, the film didn't do as well as I think it should have.
Interesting. You know, another one of my idols, Jimi Hendrix, always by my side. And, you know, not a whole lot of fanfare about it.
Well, you see, and again, Andre Benjamin did a great job playing Jimi Hendrix. He didn't have a lot to do, but I have to give John Ridley, who also was the screenwriter for 12 Years a Slave, who directed this and wrote this, he had to make this film without using any of Hendrix's music. Now, that in itself is a pretty huge feat to pull off. But again, to have James Brown and Jimi Hendrix biopics in the same year, that's kind of a milestone, I'd say.
And both were good.
And both were good.
On.
Yeah.
Both are worth seeing.
Well, you know, and I've got to see I haven't seen them yet. Ellen DeGeneres here, you know, record-breaking Oscar selfie resulting in over 244,000 tweets per minute. Give me a break, Jeremy.
Retweeted 3.3 million times. The golden tweet.
Look at that. Now, I mean, but you look at, we have the video up here.
Okay.
You know, I mean, it's just like,
It's a who's who.
To say the least. Here's something also that really got to me, and unfortunately, and I really feel bad about it, I didn't participate. I had so many things going on, but the ALS challenge.
Oh, the ice bucket challenge.
My goodness.
We have a surprise for you.
Don't listen to him. What was great
You're
about
my old least best friend now.
I'm like, go up for a minute.
Shocked for a second, looking around. So who's got that bucket?
What's so great about the Ice Bucket Challenge was that it used social media in the best way. It got from school teachers to celebrities to people you know just next door donating and showing that they're
And
donating.
challenging you.
And putting other people on the spot, like you're putting Julian on the spot right
How
here.
much money did that? I mean, awareness, obviously. I mean, we knew that growing up, at least my age here, is Lou Gehrig's disease.
Okay.
But I would assume it gave a lot of awareness.
Awareness, but money-wise, we were saying over 115 million since June when they actually started the Ice Bucket Challenge online.
Yes, it did.
Come on, that is beautiful.
And another thing, fate-wise, for this movie, the theory of everything to come out about a person who had a version of ALS, and that's pretty amazing, Stephen Hawking.
Correct.
And Eddie Redmayne gave one of the best performances this year in that film.
On the big screen, and going behind the scenes, and you touched upon this with Selma, the rise, I guess I can kind of say that though, because black directors have been around for a long time, guys. But we've got these prolific films that have come up here, and hopefully they'll be in contention for, the Golden Globes and Oscars and stuff like that. But Aman Asante and Gina Prince Bythewood, two great directors.
Writer-directors, which is even more important.
Okay.
You see, because when you're a hired gun, as a director, you're at the mercy of whatever material the studio can give you, or they'll green light, or they'll, that you have to agree on. But when you're a writer-director, you kind of can control your fate a lot more. And that's the great thing about Gina, because she wrote this piece, which I'm sure Beyonce could relate to, Beyond the Lights. And this is a piece that has to do with something that I think affects women, which is the over-sexualization in music and whatnot. And I think that's a significant thing. So she can take a subject, write about it, and give a perspective. That just shows why we need to be making movies.
We showed in the last clip opening up this segment here, of course, the deaths of people who have touched us immensely. Robin Williams, Maya Angelou, Joan Rivers. And we look back on these people, and it's hard to believe, Jeremy, and both you guys, that they're not here anymore.
And all they did and all the people they touched, like I was just talking about Joan Rivers, she was the woman who started asking, what are you wearing on the red carpet?
This is true.
Come on.
This is
Come on.
true.
First woman of late night was actually Joan Rivers, and I've gotten to meet her a few months ago and before her passing actually, and she's still with it, and so amazing spirit.
Still as sharp as ever.
I know.
It's amazing.
Oh, believe it.
With Robin Williams, of course, and we see this a lot with comedians. They're smiling on the outside but hurting on the inside. Again, raises the issue, of course, of depression and things like that affect millions of people around the world. So I would assume that even in his death, he's doing some good to continue to raise awareness about mental illness.
Well, hopefully. I would say that because he gave so much joy, it is ironic for him to be taken out because of his pain.
Yeah. We talked about the big screen, but on the small screen, we've got the emergence of a lady by the name of Shonda Rhimes.
Oh.
And now Thursday night in the United States is Shonda Rhimes night with three great shows on.
Come on.
How does she get there? How does she break break the glass ceiling? She just busted it wide
She jumped
open.
through it. Well, how she did it was the best way possible, going within, starting first as a writer, as you spoken before as well, that with her characters all are multi-complex, dynamic, and she goes for it with the story arcs, as we've seen from Grey's Anatomy to, of course, everyone's guilty favorite pleasure, Scandal. And then her new hit, How to Get Away with Murder. The ABC gave her the primetime slot, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. on Thursdays. That's a first. And Scandal is the first black female in a lead in a documentary on primetime TV since the 70s.
Unbelievable.
Correct.
There's so many things we haven't been able to touch on. Birdman, Under the Skin, Boyhood, groundbreaking films.
Those are groundbreaking films. And what excites me about those three films in particular is that here it is, it's 100 years into film. And you can still do new things. Boyhood had something visceral to it. Watching these actors age on screen, you have a connection with them that you never really would have counted on. It's almost like looking at old photos of a family.
Absolutely.
So you have this different connection to the characters. Nothing fantastic happens, but it really brings you in a way you never have in a film before. Birdman, same thing. The whole film looked like it was shot in one take.
Wow.
And to be able to still pull off something new
under the
skin quickly, Jonathan Glazer did something very interesting. How many times have we seen beautiful alien comes down to suck the life force out of men? And he did something different. What he did is he went out and filmed in Ireland with a documentary camera and just put it into the film.
Popcorn time.
These men didn't even know. They didn't even know.
Okay, popcorn, guys, after the show here. Mike Sargent, Jeremy Hassell, guys, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
As always.
Okay. And thank you for joining us for this very special edition of Arise Review. We hope you enjoyed it and were informed. And by the way, if you haven't made a resolution yet for the new year, here's one. Resolve to watch Arise Review and the other great Arise programs on Facebook. We're now streaming 24 hours a day. I'm Julian Phillips. Have a great week. In fact, have a great, prosperous, and peaceful year.